With me is my great, great, great friend, Richard Norton. Richard, it's so good to see you.
You too, Cynthia. Opposite sides of the world, but there you go. It's cold, by the way, here in Melbourne. It's so shivering. It's our winter time, just so you know.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a little bit overcast here, but it's in the 70s. So yeah. So
Wow, see.
yeah, wish you were probably here instead of being out there in the winter, huh?
Oh man, Judy and I have managed to avoid most winters in Australia. We're usually sort of over in the US, so this is our first dose, and we had the coldest day of the year or morning of the year yesterday morning, so we're getting a good taste of what it's like to be in the frost.
Oh, geez, right. All right.
Yeah.
How is it over? Where are you? You're in Melbourne, right?
Yeah, we're in Melbourne, Australia. And for those, in America who don't know, Melbourne or Victoria is right down the south, meaning right down the bottom of Australia. So kind of the next stop past here beyond Tasmania is the South Pole. So our weather is a lot more like San Francisco. So we get a lot of frost and, wind and all that. Not so much snow. There's snow in the mountains, but it gets pretty chilly. Whereas, of course, up in the Gold Coast and up in Queensland, it's a lot more subtropical.
Yeah, I was actually chatting a short time with one of our friends in common, Greg Stewart.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, how
He said
cool.
hello, but it's funny that I'm talking to you.
Yeah, how's Greg? How is he?
Yeah, we had some good times. So for all of you that know, Richard and I, we've been, oh gosh, friends since the early 80s, right? 86, we did our first movie together, Shanghai Express.
Yeah, well, but we were friends before that. Remember when I came and we worked with George Chung and all
Oh
that
my
sort of
God.
stuff, and Leo Fong. I mean, it goes way back before that.
Oh my gosh, on that movie, on that,
Yeah,
well, whatever it was, right?
Leo was going to kick everybody in the groin. Remember, he went to, I'm
Oh,
going to kick him in the groin.
yeah, I don't even count that because, yeah, it was something George Chung wanted to experiment doing movies or something with Leo Fong, and yeah, that was a little bit of a, I don't even know what was that called. Do you remember?
Oh, no, I don't. Though I did see a still from it the other day, which just took me way back to that whole experience. It's pretty funny.
Oh
It was
my
a fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our first movie, our real movie was Shanghai Express, and it was very funny because remember when I saw you, that you were both talking about how we had injuries. That I blew out my anterior cruciate ligament, and I was afraid that Samo was going to be really upset with me. And then you had an injury as well.
Yeah, well, you remember I'd done a movie in the Philippines, and in the Philippines you're always running around in rock quarries and everything else. And I remember I fell and I cut my knee, and you don't think anything of it. It wasn't a bad cut and everything like that. But anyway, matter of weeks go by, and we end up in Hong Kong, and I got a staph infection. And I was a bit like you. I was thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because when we go there, they usually have a bit of drama to shoot and everything, so we have a bit of downtime. So I was fine right up until the fights have to start. And one of the first things I had to do was kick Shoji Karata in the head, and if you if you remember, we're just like cavalry. I'm wearing these cavalry boots and everything else. Go figure, right? And this Australian US cavalry in Asia somewhere. But
Wasn't it only you and I that was dressed like that?
yeah, we were the only ones. I had no idea why. But anyway, I remember a few days before we had to do this fight scene, my knee started to swell up, and because I didn't know I had a staph infection. And the cavalry boot, it was so hard to even pull the boot on. And I remember the first thing I had to do was kick Karata in the head. And as people know in Hong Kong, they don't want you to kick lightly. You got to kick with full power. And of course, Karata's using his forearms on my shin, and I think I nearly passed out. and they pulled my boot off. And sorry to be gory, but it was kind of all pus and blood and everything. That's how bad it was. But I was in the same position as you. I was thinking a few days before, I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't say I can't do this now. You kind of got to man up and go ahead with it. But oh man, that was not a fun time at all.
Yeah, that was crazy. And I remember one of the scenes we had, the horse scenes, right? We went to, I think it was Phuket, right? And
Island, yeah.
And we were on these old retired race horses, and we went the day before, and we were all going to practice, and they give me the biggest horse there, and it starts bucking up, and I don't ride, and I'm like, whoa, like I feel like I'm 20 feet up in the air, and they say, oh, sorry, we have to give you another horse. Well, they never brought another horse, so you guys were all practicing on your horses. So the next day we shoot the scene, and I'm like, where's my horse? Where's my horse? And I'm paranoid they're going to give me this horse because I didn't know how to control it once it started bucking up, you know, and you're way up there and you're like, oh, shoot, you know, I don't want to fall down. So they give me a small horse, and I go, this is good. And they're going, okay, Samuel's telling all of us to line up in one row. And my little horse was getting kicked in the face by the big horse. They wouldn't let me go in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, geez. So finally we get in. So, Richard, do you remember? So Samuel thinks this is going to be this big scene that they're going to have. They have all these fans along the line. And as before the horses come through, they were going to put all this sand in it. And it was like a big sandstorm. And then the horses would come through the sand. And Samo says, whatever you do, don't fall off, because if you fall off, you're going to get trampled on by 100 horses that were behind us. So he says, action. They put the sand in, and I remember it was like getting sand in the eye. I couldn't see. My horse couldn't see. I'm bouncing.
Nobody could see. Nobody could see anything. We had no idea where we were going.
I know, right now I'm thinking is, don't fall off. I can't open my eyes. The horses can't open their eyes. And do you remember we all landed? Everybody like didn't land in the perfect line they were supposed to. And Samo was like so angry. He was like yelling, saying, no, you all got to line up. And nobody could do it because even the horses couldn't see. So then he ended up just putting a little puff of sand and come in. And remember, I'll never forget that scene, Richard. Remember when we were on the horses and Samo was bringing the camera across us?
He says, acting.
Well, Richard, acting. And all we're doing is just listening to what someone's saying, right? And you cracked me up. You were like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? Oh, me, or acting.
Well, and again, as you remember back then, and I, by the way, I can't believe how things have changed, but back then, everything was over the top. It was so exaggerated, People don't realize, but us as actors, especially as the Guilos there, you pretty much had to imitate what the ADs or the director wanted. And, everything was just very large and very big, which is very different to what we were used to, like acting style in the US, So for us, it was just very funny, If you're supposed to look surprised, you can't just have a little jerk. You have to go, it was big. And by the way, it was just the way they did it then. And, it's a different story. But I'm looking at Samo and Jackie and a couple of the latest stuff. I can't believe how much that's changed. I mean, how still and everything Samo is now.
Yeah.
With his drama and everything else. As I say, it was just a stylistic thing back then, but we just obviously found that very funny. And you have to try and find some humor in the middle of shooting 18 hours a day anyway. You have to find something to laugh at, right?
Oh, yeah. 18 hours probably was the shortest day, because when we were filming that, Samo wanted to get this movie out for Chinese New Year's, so he wouldn't let any of us go home. So we were on the set maybe 18 plus hours, and then you get to go home, take a shower, and then come right back. And do you remember they didn't have any toilets on the set?
Yeah.
And you had to go in an empty shell of a building to go.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to remember those things. There's better things to remember.
Man, and then let's see, what did we shoot next? Was it China O'Brien?
No, what about Magic Crystal? That was a different one.
Yeah, Magic Crystal. We did the Magic. Oh, yeah, we did Magic Crystal before.
With Wong Jing directing, who directed City Hunter with Jackie Chan, but that was the first one. And Andy Lau, that was Andy Lau's first movie, I think, coming from television. And my favorite part of that is, I remember I'm supposed to be this Russian kind of KGB dude that knew every martial art. I'm like, oh my God, especially when I had to do those actions and I had no idea what the hell I was doing. And we were shooting in a studio, and that was so hot. And my memory of that is that khaki uniform I was wearing. They only had one. They had one uniform, and it was covered in sweat in about 10 minutes. And their way of going on was to take it off and iron it dry, and I had to put it back on. You can imagine.
Remember, they had the blow dryer. They were blow drying your armpits.
Yeah, I know. What a great memory! But
oh my God. But that was a crazy movie. We shot in Greece, and you were so lucky. You and Judy were there for 10 days and only shot one day. Do you remember that? And you had a vacation. They let you stay there for the whole time.
Well, but you know how that happened. This is my story, because when we were going, having already worked in Hong Kong, I knew about the hours, and I was kind of stipulating I didn't want to be shooting 18 hours a day, but. So remember we did this fight scene where, we think we're hitting in the right place, and I think I'm ducking, and you smack me in the head with a sword.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I had to go to hospital, and I had 8 stitches just in my eye here. I've still got a scar. Thank you very much, Miss Rothrock, for that. But, it cracked me head. So they put stitches on. Then we're back in the set within hours and everything. They didn't want to put any anesthetic in it because I didn't want my eye to swell up. So we're back shooting. Anyway, cut to, we're supposed to sort of come the next day. And they said, oh, okay, we pick you up at, 6 a.m. They said, no. And I sort of put my foot down and I said, listen, this is why accidents happen, because you shoot such long hours and everybody gets very tired. And I knew we were going to Greece, So I pretty much, cutting a long story short, paraphrasing, I made a deal with them that they fly Judy to Greece, that I was only going to shoot one day, but they would cover like the 2 or 3 weeks there. And that's how the vacation ended up. We rented a little motor scooter and sort of drove all around the beaches of Greece and everything else in Athens, and it was one of the best times. Yeah, one day of shooting.
I was so mad because I had to shoot all 10 days. I didn't have one day off. I'd come to the hotel and Richard's like, oh yeah, we were out doing this and we were out doing that.
Drinking wine and
oh my God. And I remember that was like right after, not far after Shanghai Express. So my knee was still jacked up. At this time, my knee is feeling a little bit better, but I'm doing this fight scene with the spear, and as I'm doing it, my knee went out, and I got like all of a sudden you get a panic because like your knee goes out and you can't do anything. And I was fighting with the spear, and I stabbed the guy I was fighting right in the groin with the spear. I was like, oh my God. And then they're like, cut. And I was like, oh, I would have left that there because it was so real, it wasn't like, like use it as a technique. And oh yeah, that was crazy. And remember the Venus?
Oh yeah, yes. Hey, how about the alien? That was the best part.
Yeah, that was Venus. The alien was supposed to be Venus.
Oh right, yeah, that's right. And we sort of was like a paper mache kind of thing, wasn't it? With oh yeah, it was very bizarre, and we had a lot of fun with that. Even looking at this is the alien. This is the whole purpose of the movie. Was this, but I tell you what, I got to say, looking back, when you look back on the films, they were, it was such good choreography in that film. I think, the fight scenes, I think worked really, really well. And I think Andy Lau was great to work with, but I really enjoyed that. And again, when you do that, you don't know, but looking back 10, 20, whatever years back, I think that was a good fun movie and some really good action.
Yeah, I think one of the best fight scenes you and I have in the end there, remember they had me fighting Eagle and Mantis against you, and then you were
You
trying.
stuck your thumb in the side of my head. What the hell was that?
Remember, you were like, "What is that?" And then, don't worry, it's like, "Boom, okay." And then
That's
like,
supposed to be deadly or something. Yeah.
And then I remember when you and I went to the midnight show of it, and when we first saw the green alien who was supposed to be Venus, it was talking and the lips weren't moving.
It was like telepathy.
Oh my God. And then now what came after that? The China O'Briens?
Yeah, I think the China O'Brien, yeah, both 1 and 2 would have come, and then of course Rage and Honor after those. But they were good. China O'Brien movies were great. I don't know about you, you know, I still get a great sense of nostalgia looking back, because even the action, you know, as everybody knows, it's all kind of evolved to a whole different place, the way they shoot action. But I think at least what I like about the China O'Brien movies and the Raging Honors is it was pretty grounded. Do you know what I mean? It was just people with both feet on the ground, just doing good fight scenes. You know, not so much wire work, and it's not as tricked up as a lot of the fights are today. And you know, I think that was fun, and especially because we were often shooting on a shoestring budget too. You know, they didn't really have any money, and I think, you know, with all of that thrown in, it was just a great journey. It was just so much fun.
Well, it was.
And again, you know, for just as a bit of history, you know, Bob Klaus, for those who don't know, Bob Klaus directed Enter the Dragon, and Freddie Weintraub produced Enter the Dragon, and to be working with those two, you know, on China O'Brien 1 and 2, as well as Raging on 1 and 2, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I remember I was telling the people on my YouTube channel the meatball story with Fred Weintraub.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was yeah. So I'm in line. This is why I say to you, it's all about budget and everything. Everyone thinks when you do a movie, you have like an unlimited budget and everything else. And, you know, I'm in line and I'm sort of walking along, and there's spaghetti and meatballs. And I think the meatballs are about that big. They weren't big meatballs. And I think I put 4 meatballs on my plate. Next minute, Fred's up.
2 on. You put 2 on it. We were only supposed to.
Yeah, and Fred Weintraub comes up and he says, "Jesus Christ," he says, "if everybody takes 2 meatballs, we'll never feed everybody." And I went, "Oh my God." I said, "Okay." Oh, and then the other thing was a bottle of aspirin. I remember him telling the caterer to take the aspirin bottle off the table. He said, "If you leave aspirin on the table, they'll all think they've got headaches."
Oh my God. And then it was some funny stuff because we shot 1 and 2 all at the same time. And usually, you know, you would just like study for the first one, and then Robert Klaus would say, "Hey, we're in the office. Let's do the scene from 2." And we're like, "Well, we didn't even look at that script yet." It doesn't matter. Just do the lines, right? And I'll never forget, there was one scene he popped on us that we weren't supposed to do. And usually, you know, when you're an actor, you have the day before what scene, so you study those scenes. Well, all of a sudden he pops this scene on us, right? And Richard and I are in a convertible car, and the sun is shining right in our eyes. And it's the most horrible lighting ever. We both look like we're like 200 years old, right? And Robert Klaus was saying, "No, act like this, say this." And, you know, we had to copy him. And it was, for me, you know, I was pretty new in the film industry. I was like, "Oh, I know that's even like bad acting." So Richard and I, this is so crazy. It had to be a godsend thing. We go to the screening of China O'Brien, and we're both there, and we're both horrified when this scene comes up. And do you remember when it was ready to come up, the film like kind of burned?
Yeah.
And then when it came to, that whole scene was gone. I was like, "Oh my God, did you do that?" It was so, wasn't that crazy? Because,
Yeah,
you know, if you guys check out China O'Brien and you see it, that's a pretty horrible scene.
yeah.
Oh man. But that was a lot of fun in Utah. And then let's see, I think then, didn't we do the Lady Dragon?
Yeah, Lady Dragon in Indonesia. That was a whole different experience again.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think now. Oh yeah, I think you got me back for that thing on your eye then.
What did I do? Did I? What happened? Did I smack you?
Oh, a few times. Yeah, pretty hard. Oh my God. And I remember, let's see, I think then we're back to Indonesia again to do Rage and Honor. Rage and Honor Part 2. We did one here, and then we did
Yeah.
Rage and Honor Part 2.
And that was with Guy Norris directing,
Yeah.
remember?
And
Yeah, my old mate Guy Norris. So
that was kind of crazy. Do you remember like there was a lot of tension between the Indonesians and then Guy Norris and his group? You remember that?
yeah, no, it wasn't a comfortable shoot. Well, I think unfortunately there were a lot of things promised that weren't actually as were promised, as far as what's available and, what you could use stunt wise and blanks for the guns. There was all sorts of issues. It was just a very different experience, and we're shooting in Jakarta, of course. So, but still, it all worked out, it was all good, but yeah.
And then what else? Let's see. Then there was, remember Guardian Angel? They didn't have a stunt coordinator. So I said, you have to have a stunt coordinator. And I brought you in. And then they said to work with that guy. Remember the guy that didn't do any martial arts and he faked his way in?
Well, hold on, remind me.
Yeah, he was from Mexico, and he was like a Vanna White in Mexico. He was like, he turned letters on a show, and he faked his way in. And they said, Richard, go work with him, on martial arts. And you came up to me and said he only knows a crescent kick. That was all he knew. And this guy, we have this fight scene, and Richard's choreographing it, and I have to punch him. And he kept moving in, and I kept telling him, don't move in because I'm going to hit you. And I'm getting frustrated because he keeps moving in. So, because he knows nothing about action, he just saying he was this great martial artist. So I tagged him in the nose, like just a little bit. And he goes home and everybody's okay. And then the producer calls me and they said, Cynthia, what did you do to him? He went home all bloody. His face was all blood. He wants $250,000.
Oh, I don't think I even knew that. Are you serious?
Oh my God, yes. And I'm like, what? I said, there was no blood. I just tapped him in the nose. And then they call him back and they say, we looked at the footage. There's no blood. She didn't hit you. And he goes, well, can I have like $25,000? They're like, get out. And then they fired him. They fired him. He didn't come back. And I remember a stunt person said they were talking to him and he says, yeah, I was on the set with Cynthia Rothrock and she beat the crap out of me. And they went, I don't know if I'd be telling that. That's
not something to brag about.
He was like,
Boy, and as you know, how would some of those people have been working in Hong Kong like we did? I mean, people have no idea the amount of contact that were in those fights, right, in the Hong Kong movies, because that's just the way they did it. I mean, sure, there are lots of wires and tricks and everything, but as far as contact, what you saw happening was pretty much happening. And also that it wasn't just one or two takes like you do in a Western movie. You'd sometimes do 20, 30 takes because everything was rehearsed on camera. You didn't work it out before. So it was quite brutal. When you look back, you think, how are we still here? I mean, and by the way, I also said that I look back and think, gee, I was complaining, but that's the way a lot of those crews, and they work year in, year out doing that with that kind of pressure, that kind of contact and everything else. So hats off to them. I mean, they're a tough breed, and so great at what they do. But yeah,
it definitely wasn't easy shooting movies in Hong Kong. You had to be tough, and you had to deal with pain and do whatever they threw at you. It was. But you know what? I miss those days. I really do. I wish I could be with you.
I miss it too. But it's like you said, you had to be in such good shape going into those movies. If you weren't, there's no way you were going to last. Especially working with the Jackie Chans or Sammo Hongs and that. They had such a level of excellence they wanted out of whoever they were working with. So if you couldn't keep up with that, you certainly wouldn't get to do a second one, that's for sure. So I think for both of us, the amount of expertise we learned from being on the sets with those sort of people, it was just incredible. I remember even how to throw a punch. Sammo had this kind of triangle shape. You'd sort of put the punch out, drag it across and bring it back, which felt weird. But I do remember that that I learned some real little gems as far as throwing techniques and making them work for camera. Because those guys, they're definitely, I've always said, Samo, Jackie, Yunbil, they're the maestros of action movies. And I still think creatively, it's very hard to find anybody better at what they do.
Questions coming in.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in to my channel and subscribing. And you keep asking the questions and I'll keep answering them for you. So as much fun as it is for you to hear the stories, it's really fun for me to reminisce about all the great times that I had. So take care. God bless. If you get a chance, go to my website, cynthiarothrock.com. I have autographed pictures there. I have DVDs. I just came out with a new biography. The Martial Art History Museum has put it together, and some of the profits go to the museum. So check that out if you want. And again, thank you for being a subscriber and watching my YouTube videos. Hi, this is Cynthia Rothrock. Thank you for watching my YouTube channel. And if you like the videos, please put a like on it and refer it to your friends.